Welcome, everyone, to the TRON podcast. This is your host, Rashad Woods, coming back from our neighbor to the north, Canada. We have a very special guest today, speaker. It's very important we discuss that she has created a business where she celebrates life for people, as well as a very accomplished author. Kelly Meloche, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi there.
Hi, how you doing? Good.
Good.
So tell us a little bit. Obviously, you have a great background, and the work you do helps people cope with very, very difficult times in their life. You also do very positive things, but not that that's not positive, but particularly when it comes to coping and celebration of life. How did you get into that, and how does that business go?
You know what? I actually had another business that was thriving, and I closed that down. And really, in a way, I was discovered to be a celebrant. I didn't know what a celebrant was, but someone saw something in me, and they were in the funeral industry, and they said, "You need to be a celebrant." And all I knew about that was that you get to know people and you tell their stories. I thought, I'm in.
Yeah.
So I developed I went for the training. I've been doing it ever since. I absolutely love it, what it really is. And everybody can make it their own. And now I'm mentoring other celebrants because I honestly believe that this is the way funerals should be. This is,
Right.
everybody should rethink how we celebrate life, not just grieve death. That's natural.
Of course.
But if we look at someone's life, you even think of your own, every little nugget of lessons that you have, if at the end of this life that we can safely gather, tell the story of that person, like the real story. Of course, there's things that we can't, disclose or whatever, but sometimes you can move around those. I don't care whether they've spent half their life in prison or whether they were a professor, whatever. We all have this story. We're all here to learn lessons. We're all perfectly imperfect. But if we can be in a room together, and
Right.
that is when we become one at that moment.
For sure.
We just gather as love and as support and as kindness, and our hearts radiate that, and we embrace that life that has impacted ours. So it's amazing work.
So I thought what was great about is the fact that obviously when you come to a celebration of life rather than mourning death, like you're getting people through very difficult time periods. This has come from somebody obviously whose father passed away. Not that you knew, but father passed away. And I thought that getting through that process with positivity, helps you get through that really dark period in life.
Yeah.
My question is that there's a multitude of questions. One of them, the first I had, was the expected kind of respectfully versus the unexpected. Like somebody's 95 years old, that may be a little bit easier versus a sudden tragedy that happens to somebody. So how do you change the celebration of life dictated upon the circumstances?
You know what? That's a great question, because you're right. If grandma's been knitting her way through life, had a great life, certainly had her pitfalls along the way. That's when the war and the depression, everything like that, you can talk about and have people realize how she encountered more movements in technology and medicine. That's one.
Absolutely.
But when you have that loss, that guttural, this is a tragedy. I am an empathic, emotional being.
Right.
For me to be able to, because everybody wants to do something, everybody wants to help. This is my way to help. But you have to, I have the opportunity to sit with the family in that space, and you have to allow that space to unfold. And there will be this time in the conversation where they now feel safe to say, you know what? He never drank the milk out after he had 7 bowls of cereal. So, you know what I mean? Those little things.
Yeah.
Those little nuances that they haven't been thinking about. But all of a sudden, all these puzzle pieces come together. And when you bring everybody there, every single person in that room will be seeing and feeling that loss differently. It's not the same. There's no
question.
Exactly. Everybody has a different story about them. But if they can hear bits of that story and they can feel safe to laugh, to chuckle, to understand that this life, this nuance of this person is very real and prevalent. And I don't have to tuck them away in the corner and act like I have to move on without them.
Of course.
You can pull them inside, like with your father. Now you probably look at yourself and you talk to him in different ways. You feel him in different ways. You see him in different ways. And with those tragic ones that will stick with everybody forever, there is an opportunity right then in the celebration of life to start the healing process by looking at them, feeling them, and not turning away and trying to deny it.
Yeah, because, when you're in the, I said this to everybody as somebody who's lost somebody, my father. It being in the front row is different than being in the back row, right?
Got it.
Uncle, cousin, friend, etc. Your loss is much different from the person who's sitting at the very front row. And I've
Oh,
only
yeah.
been in the front row one time. And it
Yeah.
is a massive difference of,
Yes.
hey, sorry for your loss. I'm going to go back to my regular life versus when you have to go home and you have to live with what just happened.
Right. And you don't realize if it's not your front seat
Oh,
at a funeral, you don't realize how the people, you probably felt this with your dad, that the people behind you and beside you that are seated there are actually flanking you. You're
yep.
actually leaning on their energy. You won't find the right words to thank them. You won't find the right
No,
words to describe
nope.
how you're feeling,
Right,
but the presence is helping you. But you're right. And then people all of a sudden go on with their own lives. You try to find a way to go on
right.
differently with your own life.
Unquestionably.
And the big mistake that people make is that they'll run into you 2 months later, 3 months later, 2 days later, and they will avoid the subject where they should bring the subject up.
Yeah.
They should,
It's
they should make your dad the first thing they bring up.
it's funny you mention that because it's that awkward moment of like, you don't know what to say, but coming from somebody who's an expert in that field, you know exactly how to get people through that process. People see people, it's that awkward moment of you don't know what to say. Like I just saw
Yeah.
you at your parents or whatever close one's funeral last week, and now, what do I say?
Yeah. Yeah. And the hardest thing is, and I've talked to people that have said this, that for the first time they're out grocery shopping or they're doing whatever, and they always used to do something with their spouse
Right.
or, their child is missing at that point, and they're doing their best to gather the courage to be in the real world. And they'll
Hmm.
see people that they know and they've
Hmm.
seen people avoid them. And it's only because these people are like, I don't know what to say. But why can't you just walk up, give them a hug and say,
Oh my
I
God.
don't know what to say, but my heart's
Right.
with
Yeah, that goes a long way. And so, and that's beautiful work. And I did have a question. How do you work when it comes to different religious ceremonies? Because everybody's background is different. Some could be Catholic. So how do you do those when it comes to the process of people's different beliefs?
you. Well, you know what? Most of the time when someone wants a celebration of life, it doesn't mean that they're not religious. Certainly doesn't mean that I'm not religious,
Right.
but I am very non-denominational. When people will say, well, what church are you from? Because I will include prayers. Most of the time, if I include prayers, I write a prayer for that specific person and
Right.
what their life meant to the planet and went
Right.
to other people.
For sure.
So I will tell people I'm a member of the Church of Kindness.
Nice. Nice.
That's
It's
all
beautiful.
I believe in. So
Beautiful.
if they are Catholic, if they are Buddhist, if they are, and I've worked with all religions, sometimes I'm super fortunate
Yeah.
because clergy from that religion will agree to come in even
Nice.
for 5, 10 minutes. And that's the best thing. If we can amalgamate like that,
Hmm.
it should happen more. But if not, and if I'm not comfortable, if I feel like, you know what, you want me to say this prayer, but now for the first time in this whole ceremony, I'm just going to be reading words and I won't be feeling them from the place I need to feel them because it's new to me and I did not write this from my heart. Usually a family member or friend will come up and they
Right.
will share it. So
Got
it's
it.
perfect. It's how we're supposed to be working together on the planet. Everybody bring their genius together. Yeah,
There's very few things that bring people together, in a pseudo positive manner under tough circumstances is
yeah,
grief, because nobody's immune from it, right? And we all,
exactly. Yeah.
and so that's great work that you do. I saw also that you're an author as well too. Let's talk about your book, please.
This book, such a labor of love. I've always wanted to write a book. When I
Hmm.
was in high school, I was told, Kelly, you're going to be a journalist one day. You're going to write a book one day.
Hmm.
Um, and I had been covering so many unique lives, but they were lives like everyday people that are just going through life. But when you get into them, when you get to unfold those levels and you get to ask the families questions that they never even thought about, remarkable things came
For
through.
sure.
And it changed me. So I just sat down with a cross section that I hoped everybody could open up. I don't know whether you know the book Chicken Soup for the Soul, but that's how I wanted it to read.
Gotcha. My mom
You
had that book.
Yeah, yeah, a great, and you can read it over and over and over again. So some people would say that so reminded me of my dad. My dad was a barber too, or my mom was a teacher. Like this makes sense to me.
For
So I
sure.
wrote a book in 144 days, true labor of love.
Yeah.
My dog is included in it because
Beautiful.
pets.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
That's wonderful. So, I saw just briefly, and I took some notes about it quick too, and it said let's take a look here. Like the challenging of the limitations of traditional funerals, which we talked about a little bit earlier as well too. So did you use your childhood examples to write the book? Like, did you go through anything in particular in life that led you down this path that said, you know what, there needs to be more positivity in a career, that I want to work with people? Did you see anything early on that made you want to do this?
You know what? I will say that I think my whole life has groomed me for this, but I didn't know.
Hmm.
I lost my parents, and I won't say that there's one thing, but I did. I lost my dad when I was 20, my
Okay.
mom when I was 27.
Right. That's young.
That's young, yeah.
Yes.
And so, you know what? They haven't seen my children. I've gone through those stages of my life without them. And I
Right.
envy my friends
Mm.
when they're my age and they're still, going shopping with their mom. I
Right.
don't
Right.
say that I've carried that as a weight like for me,
But you think about it.
but I do think about it. And I do hope that they feel so blessed that they have that in their life, because you always need your parent in one capacity or another, because our parents help us to understand our who's and our whys. There's
Right.
this Aboriginal saying that I learned, and they say, we live for the 7 generations before us and the
Yeah.
7 generations that will come after us. So we are
Right.
like this tapestry, this thread. So I always think that everything that I've done in my life,
Yeah.
I have always looked at people in the most positive way. And then when this came up, I have learned, I didn't know this myself, that I have created the role of a celebrant in a whole new way,
Cool.
because I will, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll wake up and I think, I forgot that she loved blue toenail polish. I
That's
forgot
amazing.
that. And that needs to be said, because I want that. I want people to feel like that woman is right there at her celebration of life and they're
Well, not
honored.
only that though, and I say this respectfully, it means you didn't just read off the piece of paper about
No,
somebody's life, right?
no,
If you know that what their favorite food were, if you knew about their habits, if you knew that they golfed on Saturday mornings, right? And those things radiate and matter to people. And those,
they they do. Yeah. So and especially now with the world that is so topsy turvy, a lot of times people say to me, "Oh my God, Kelly, what you do, you must be so sad. It must be," and it is. But I look at it like I have a way to infuse comfort and kindness and thoughtfulness and understanding and non-judgment into a moment
right,
that is going to happen.
for sure.
And we all need to be able to embrace this.
Well, I thought too, and what's the reason I asked about your background and how you led to that is because I went to your LinkedIn profile, right? And you go from
Oh,
customs tax collector, right, to then communication for the Ministry of
transportation.
Transportation. And I'm like, that's an interesting like arc that you went from customs, because usually I don't want to stereotype, but I think customs goes to law enforcement, goes to public safety, not this particular
Right.
avenue, right?
Right. Well, you know what? Even when I was a customs officer, I think I was effective because I had a way to engage with the people. I'm 5 feet tall. There's nothing intimidating about me. 5 feet tall. I have a lot of teeth, big smile.
Yeah.
Nobody fears me. Not even my children did. So I moved from there. And then, yeah, I moved to the Ministry of Transportation. I became their use of force tactical communications instructor.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
So there I was in front of all these big gorilla guys that never smiled, that all had mirror glasses, and I'm teaching them
Right.
tactical communication skills. And then I got pretty good with takedowns because it was never about strength. It
Right.
was all about agility. So
That's
nobody
amazing.
would expect I'm taking that 200-pound guy down. Now, in a fist fight,
Yeah.
I've
Different
done it.
ball. Different ball. Yeah, but still,
Yeah,
you knew. That's awesome. Like, and that's one of the reasons that was so fascinating. I'm like, how did she go from that to that? But
no, I know.
and then in customs, you are like I've been through customs hundreds of times, right?
Yeah.
And the amount of different people that you encounter by the hour has to be staggering.
It was amazing. And again, I learned so much. I used to realize that, especially as a young woman in my 20s, you would get different cultures in
Of
front
course,
of you. And
100%.
they had absolutely no reason to talk to you. From their cultural perspective,
Right,
I don't want to talk to you. And my thought was, I am not here to change your history of beliefs.
right,
Right now,
right,
we have to find our common ground. We
right,
have to find a way to communicate.
for
I'm
sure.
not going to disrespect you,
Right.
but you can't disrespect me either. So
They need
that
you more than you need them, to be honest with
right. Right. If you want, I can always win this. At the end of the day,
Just saying.
I can win this discussion.
Absolutely, you can.
I'm the more powerful one right now, but
100%.
yeah. And so then you move on to law enforcement with the ministry and you encounter all of that. You encounter different personalities. But
Hmm.
there is this book. I can forget the authors right now,
Hmm.
but it's called What Happened to You? What Happened to You? And what that is that you can go to any single person on the planet and say, What happened to you? Because by the time you're 20, 30, 40, 50, you've had things happen to you that will display themselves in everyday life,
No question.
and
No
you're not dealing with, oh, I'm going through the border right now, or I'm dealing with ever. It is your history. So sometimes I will, especially when I'm dealing with families and I see the dynamics, like
question.
you can feel the tension in the room between siblings.
Hmm.
You're all trying to play nice in this sandbox,
Ooh.
but boy, is there some animosity. So I just walk in, what do they say, is Sweden or Switzerland?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Totally neutral.
Totally neutral. I love all of you. Some a little more, some a little less. We're
Right.
gonna try to make this right, but I think, like, where did you come from? And then I opened up a medical travel company.
I was
Just
going to ask about that. What's that? Hurley Medical Centers? You work with
uh,
Hurley Medical Centers?
well, it was international healthcare providers. Hurley
Yeah.
was one of my
Okay.
contacts, but I used to write for this magazine and just kind of for fun.
Yeah.
And one of the discussions I had with the doctor, you used to kind of you go back and forth with me, was that, our Canadian socialized system, people are waiting and waiting for healthcare, and it's too bad that someone just didn't have the precedence or the ability to know how to go to the States and pay for it if they wanted to.
Well, I saw that example you used where I saw the article on your LinkedIn profile where the person went to Flint to get the MRI and the details of it all. It was
Yeah.
very, they were able to get treatment as quick as possible.
Lifesavers,
Right.
lifesavers. That was just a whim. And this is how things, I think when you're in the right spot,
Right.
things just open up for you, because next thing I know, I have partnerships all over the US. I have partnerships in
Beautiful.
Mexico. I'm over in New Zealand. I'm the keynote
Wow.
speaker at Caesar's Palace. And I'm
Are you
thinking,
serious? That's awesome.
not joking. No.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's beautiful.
at Simon Fraser University speaking on the ethics committee. And I will say this, my success was only attributed to me being able to say, here I am just Kelly. I'm from this small town in Amherstburg.
Yeah.
My intention is to do something really good for the world.
Right.
I was at this conference for it was like the most powerful women leaders in the world. And there's all of these women married to princes, and
And you're having to pinch yourself. You're pinching yourself like, I'm
right.
here.
Yeah, I've got a name tag. Like, they haven't found out that I'm just Kelly.
Yeah.
And then I realized, but you're just you. I'm just me. So if we can get rid of all of our labels, all of our dogma, we do. We all have the same feelings. We all bleed the same way. And that was what it was about. So I had all the success. And I think this is why I say my calling was to become a celebrant,
Yeah.
because I can sit with any walk of life. And I truly am an open vessel because I just want to understand you.
Well, I think the most important part is everybody has a story to tell, and it's how you frame the question to somebody. It's when you come in there without an agenda and you say, just tell me exactly how you framed this particular segment of your life. And so when you talked about, when you went back to that, with funeral services and obviously that's a big portion of what you do. So I'm just focusing on this right now,
Yeah.
is that when the person sometimes that passed away is the glue that held opposite type of people together, right? And
Yeah.
so they were the only reason they got together for either like a wedding or a birth. You know where I'm going with this. And now you have TNT in the room.
Yes. Yes.
It
Oh,
don't take much. That person does not want to see that. And it could be their brother or their sister, or
yeah.
it doesn't matter who it is. And so for you to be that medium, for you to be that calm voice in the room, they'll probably talk to you before they talk to the person sitting right across from
100%. 1%. And I will see that the eye contact is towards me. Or if one says something they disagree with, they won't say anything, but then here comes the sigh,
you.
or here
Uh-huh.
comes the hard drop of the pen.
Oh, yeah.
Or here comes the phone call afterwards as I'm driving away, where I didn't want to be rude. I just wanted to tell you this, how
Yep.
wrong they were. But the truth is, everybody had their own relationship with that matriarch or patriarch, or with the
Right.
son or with the cousin or whatever. So they're right.
100%.
However they're feeling,
100%.
right. And they're validated. And What happens after that is up to them.
Absolutely. I
But you
mean,
do, so I will try to infuse that language in the body of the service. If I talk a little bit about acceptance and forgiveness and realizing that everybody has their own dichotomy of how they travel through life, I hope I plant that seed. I don't know.
but yeah, it's just it's I think having you as opposed to those people attempting to talk to each other, and this isn't me saying a Canadian thing, right? Because it happens. This is a global thing, right? Like
This is
if
global.
people don't like each other, they don't like each other, right? And that's just fact. But no, that's beautiful work that you do. I did have a question though, because it's funny. I have 3 daughters, right? And one of the things that they were asking about photo albums and pictures and things like that. We live in more of a digital era now that people don't go through like photo books anymore, right?
No.
Like you used to go through a photo album. So
Yeah.
like how do you, I know that's not people don't take pictures where it comes out of the Polaroid. They go to the pharmacy or the grocery store and they get the picture developed, and there's not a montage available for people
Right.
now. How do
Right.
you? But how does that work itself out with you? Because those are important for memory purposes.
Those are really important. So sometimes if it's the older generation, they do have the photo albums.
Absolutely, they do.
So they can go through that. If they are all digital, thank goodness the funeral homes, they can send in those pictures,
Hmm.
and then they can kind of make a collage out of those pictures to
Right,
post, or the family can go and have a bunch of pictures printed out.
right.
But it is totally different right now that we don't have the tangible.
No, no.
And I think that makes a big difference. I do miss the days where we would go to the drugstore and be like, "Oh, we're waiting for the film to develop." And then
Yeah.
we have doubles and they didn't show up, and why do I have all these pictures of feet or whatever?
Well, even the past time on that rainy day Saturday, you would go through a photo album, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and there would be like 4 or 5 stacks of photo albums,
Yeah.
and you don't have that. You just go through your phone, and it's
Yeah.
not the same emotional connection for people. It's
It
just
is
not.
no, it's not the same. And it's so readily available now, people. And that's why, the blessing and the curse of social media. So
Absolutely.
through social media, some people are on vacation and they can post, we're having dinner, but then other people will post every move of their day all
Can't even
day
drive.
long.
Can't even
And
drive.
you just can't. I'm happy for you. You can't be dragged along. Or then there's the passive aggressive where someone will just write having a really bad day, don't want to talk about it, send prayers.
Yeah, but they really want to be reached out to.
They really want, so imagine if you just didn't do that.
Right.
Imagine if we could return to your phone ringing and saying, "Oh my God, I'm spinning right now. Do
Yeah.
you have, like, can I come up like we used to do?
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time. Let's have a conversation."
Well, my girls be text messaging their friend. I'm like, why don't you pick up and call them? Right? Like, pick up the phone.
Yes, relationships are managed via
Yeah.
text. Via
Yeah.
text. And I don't even know, this is so off topic, but if you watch Love is Blind, because
I have
that's
not
my,
seen that.
oh my God, that's my mindless when I need to check out of all
Yeah.
things sane in the world,
Yeah. Yeah.
blind, but I'll watch that. And people will just be having a fight over what someone posted on Instagram 2 weeks ago. And
Right. And
so we're
they
not
just go down they're typing faster and harder too, and right. And then the emojis come out and stuff like.
cowardly. Yeah. We
Oh
need
my goodness.
more connection, and that's what celebrations of life do. They get you not only to think about that person that you lost, they get you to think about your story. How am I writing my story? How would I be remembered?
And when you start thinking like that, because it's the one date we can't change,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I do. You also do weddings too, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, how did you kind of do it all, which is fascinating because again, celebration of life is not just when somebody passes, but you also do milestones, weddings. Like does that all kind of encompass in the same mode of work that you do?
You know what? I was doing celebrations of life first, and then people would stop me and say, "Do you do weddings?" And it was always like, "No, I don't. No, I don't." So finally I thought, well, I really should. So
Yeah,
I became a wedding officiant, and
beautiful.
I was booked solid before I was even a legal wedding officiant. Like my first day doing weddings, I had two in one day. And it was kind of funny because I said to everybody, "You made me do this."
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a wedding officiant now, but I approach it in the same way. So I meet with the couples
yeah.
and I learn their story. I
Mhm.
ask them questions individually and I bring that into their wedding vows, their wedding ceremony. So it's not
Beautiful.
boring. It's not just a bunch of words. I don't
Right.
show up with the same thing. I mean, break my femur if I have to show up every day and just read off something and not be invested. Not,
Insert name, speed,
oh,
right.
no, no,
Chat GPT it.
not, and it's much more work. It is much more work to get to know them. But at the end of the day, when I leave a celebration of life or I leave a wedding and I know that they had something unique to them,
Right.
then I think, you know what? Today was a good day.
Well, it's funny you talk about what people want for convenience, but they want personal service. The perfect example of that to me is like self checkout. Like, how frustrated do you get at self? Like, you're ready to absolutely break the screen and you're like, can you please get me a person? Right. So, for
Yes.
anybody who's willing to listen, if it's something as important as the wedding, take the time out to get somebody that'll sell you a personal story as opposed to just printing out a generic.
Yeah.
Personal service matters. It
It
does.
matters. Connection matters. Feeling seen and feeling heard
Right.
is part of our birthright. Everybody wants to know that they really cared about what I was saying. They stopped to listen to what I was saying. I meant something to that person. I mean, we make it so complicated and it's not. Just
Well,
listen, just care.
it's crazy. I can go down the wormhole of this forever, right? Like, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. Your time's valuable. But it's like getting your prescription in the mail. You're like, well, like, people want to see their pharmacist, right?
Yeah.
People want to see their pharmacist. Yes, it's cool. I can get my, but you don't know, like, they had some questions for you. Like, it could be a generational thing if it's your local pharmacy and they've seen your parents, they see you, they see your
Yes.
kids, etc. Right? So people
Yeah.
like that personal touch, and
Yeah.
your business hits the nail on the head where people generally want to feel connected to something
They
in some
want they
way.
want to feel like not only does their loved one really matter, like I want you to know how amazing my mom was. But part of that is when they get to express it, when
Right.
they get to think about, I never even thought about that with my mom, or you just allowed me to remember this
Right.
one day. It seems insignificant, but it's so not. Then
Absolutely.
they realize that they matter too.
No question. Well,
Yeah.
I have to ask you, you don't need me because you've done phenomenal work. Where can people find Kelly Meloche?
Well, they can, of course, because we talked about this before, they can
Yeah.
find me in the beautiful town of Amherstburg,
Yes.
Ontario. They can find me on my website, www.kellymeloche.com.
Yes.
They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me on Facebook. And they can, if they find my number, they can find me on the phone.
Like I said, I got a chance to look at your accomplishments. They speak for themselves. I think the world could use a lot more positivity. And if people, you never know when your time is to go. And I would always say, save those pictures, save those messages. This is just me taken from the outside in, and when you want somebody remembered, it's nice to have somebody like you in there.
And have the conversation, right?
Right.
Have that outstanding conversation. Always let someone know how much they are loved or valued or cherished, or even if they're frustrating you, have that conversation too.
For sure. Well, I want to thank you for allowing me to annoy you for about 30 minutes, and so it's been a pleasure. I hope we have a round two for some follow up, but thank you for being on the TRON podcast.
You are delightful. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you so much and best wishes for future work with you.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.